Good afternoon, all, and we are back again with another interesting panel discussion on effect of NEP on youth empowerment and force development. Before we dive into this particular panel discussion, let me introduce you to all the esteemed panel members and the moderator. We have Mr. Nitin A. Williams, Principal, Bluebells Public School, Jhansi. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Mr. Sandy Huda, Co-founder, Vega Schools, Gurugram. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Gautam Rajgaria, Pro Vice Chairman, Delhi Public School, Varanasi. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Neha.
Ms. Raina Jain, Director, Witty Group of Institutions, Mumbai. Welcome, ma'am. And we have the moderator of this session, Dr. Suyash Bhattacharya, Principal, ITM Global School, Gwalior. Welcome, Dr. Bhattacharya.
Hello, and welcome everyone.
Now I'm handing over this discussion to the moderator, Dr. Bhattacharya, to go ahead with this particular panel. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ms. Pal. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be among such prominent people. Let me introduce the panel. We have with us Dr. Raina Jain. She happens to be the director of the Witty Group of Institutions, Mumbai. We have Mr. Gautam Rajgaria, who is a pro vice chairman of the Delhi Public School, Varanasi, and several other schools in Nashik and Nagpur. We have Mr. Sandy Huda, co-founder of Vega Schools, Gurgaon. We have with us Mr. Nitin Williams of Bluebells Public School, Jhansi.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Hello, good afternoon. I think there is a network outage on the moderator's end.
I'm sorry I got disconnected. Today's panel is basically to discuss why the NEP and how it empowers students and how it brings in the component of sports and fitness right into the heart of things. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Now, the NEP 2020 is a very timely document because India is actually moving ahead at a pace where India wants to see itself uh, playing a major role by the 2030s and the 2040s. So there are several 2030s vision in place, and to actually put them and make them possible, the skills empowerment part was very important, and the NEP 2020 was designed basically to address that issue, to make the young population of the country future ready, to make their skills commensurate with the needs of the industry, the needs of the country, and therefore, in the global perspective, making India a country which can actually propel the entire economy of the world or be one of the major components in doing so. Now, we are to start with the key issue of what are the key provisions of the NEP. I could look into the NEP and see that it's basically dealing with three key areas as
Some network issues.
Did I get
Yeah, we couldn't hear you.
right? Right. So these three key provisions have been built into the NEP and into its vision document, and we will be discussing on that. If I may start with Mr.
Yes,
Rajgaria.
I'm sorry, we missed out that part. You were not audible. You were
All
talking
right.
about.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. I was basically talking about what the key provisions of the NEP are. And from the academic point of view, the NEP is actually looking at um, holistic learning, a multidisciplinary approach, and at vocational education, or putting vocational education into the center of things so that the skill sets of our future ready generation are right in place. So with these first three key provisions, I'll open up the panel, and I would like to invite first Mr. Rajgaria to speak on any one of them and enlighten all of us.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Suyash, for the nice introduction there and opening it up on very important topic of the NEP and the implementation of the NEP. And you correctly summed up that the three provisions that are given by or in the NEP. And I would like to pick on the topic of holistic development. And when we talk about holistic development, let me just give you a context of what was happening so far and how the national education policy is laying out a sustainable policy so that holistic development happens. So, in the context of what is happening so far before the NEP, I would just like to add that the entire education system was working on a very linear sort of a model wherein you had to choose your streams. There was a fixation in terms of the subjects. Skill development or vocational study, so to say, was non existent and maybe existent to a certain extent in polytechnics, but not in the mainstream schooling. There was a mindset that education is academics and academics is education, which the NEP in its document, when it talks about holistic development, it tries and encompasses that academics is one dimension of education, and education need not necessarily mean academics only. The promotion of arts, the promotion of sports, the promotion of mental well being, the promotion of knowing about oneself and one's fitness is all encapsulated in letter and spirit in the NEP. Now, one of the very important things to be seen here is how it is to be implemented. So, the policy kind of lays down a guideline, a framework for the next 10 years or 15 years for us to focus on these key areas. And why it does so is also because there has been a lot of data coming in from all various portals that education in India is not multidisciplinary. If we are looking at sciences, then we are only looking at sciences. Then we are putting the arts, the music, the culture, the sports, everything behind. And there has been this talk wherein in schools, in a lot of schools, we talk about a term called co-curricular, which is in my sense, in my mind, not correct, because arts is not co-curricular, it is curricular. Music is not co-curricular, it is curricular. It has to be part of the mainstream. And sports, one of the very, very neglected aspects of our education system has been sports. We look at the PE periods or the physical education that happens in schools as a free play time, wherein the notion, so to say, is that no real education is being imparted. But really, that is the time when children interact and learn the most. So I would like to sum up my introductory speech that the holistic part of the NEP is the most important aspect. The word holistic needs to be taken into consideration in letter and spirit, and we need to look at the implementation of this wholeheartedly. Thank you so much, Dr. Bhattacharya.
So well spoken and so well framed up in the introductory speech by Mr. Rajgaria. Holistic education. I mean, it's something which is the need of the day, and to make it possible, as you have pointed out, a multidisciplinary approach is required. And to talk on that, I would like to request Mr. Nitin Williams to please present your views, sir.
A very good afternoon to one and all present over here. I'm Nitin Williams, Principal of Bluebells Public School, Jhansi. Well, in regard to NEP, I would like to say that it's been said there's nothing permanent except change. We need to bring changes, and with changes only, the things can happen. If we go on with the same monotonous things, what have been portrayed up into the education system previously, and we do not change ourselves, then it will be a big task for our young generation that how to be more effective with the choices what they have in their mind, the things what they have to do, and the career ahead what they look forward, that if suppose if they are not successful in one field, at least they have got an option of another field to join. So NEP was being framed out years and years back, but now it is getting implemented. And how far it will be implemented in coming years, that becomes a question mark. But yes, of course, as it is coming up into existence, so obviously all the children will get benefit, and all will have the opportunity to choose the right correct career at the right time. Well, with these words, thank you so much, sir.
Thanks so much, sir. Thanks for actually, laying out, the topic that students should have a plethora of opportunities in front of them. I mean, they should not find themselves stunted halfway through a particular stream that are actually earmarked for them nowadays. So a more liberal curriculum, a more multidisciplinary approach. Yes. Now, I'll come to Ms. Dr. Jain now. Welcome, Dr. Jain. Um, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Ma'am, if you would, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Ma'am, we would like to hear from you about your views about vocational education and how that can play a key role in empowering our youth.
Yes, sir. So, a warm afternoon to all of you. I'm Dr. Rena Jain, Director, Viti Group of Institutions. Nowadays, where you spoke of vocational, I'd like to put across my view in terms of I'm really happy that the National Education Policy has included that. For a simple reason, when we talk to children, oh, you have to learn or you have to study. The moment the word study comes, they try to run away from it. Children nowadays, as Sir also mentioned, Mr. Williams just mentioned, multidisciplinary approach. They enjoy that, right? Even if I tell my son that, oh, come on, sit and study, you have an exam. But if the same thing is done or taught differently with different methods, I think they enjoy that better. So why not teach vocation, make them people smart as well as world smart. When I say world smart, it's not just academics that is going to rule. but I need to have other life skills and more creativity to ensure that I am a all-rounded person, without which I don't think we can take it further. And like I said, children get bored very easily. Only academics is not the way uh, ahead. They really need to know. So, collaborating with various institutions or industries or stalwarts in the field of business, inviting them, making them teach children in probably in a classroom setup or outside, teaching them basic skills, even certain skills like carpentry, that also has so much to do with our regular studies. Yeah, so math is involved, uh, your eye hand coordination is involved, basic skills are involved in doing these normal routine also. There's nothing that I need to shy away from. We are in India also, we are seeing that we are heading to a culture, a westernized culture, where probably tomorrow finding a plumber or a carpenter is not going to be easy. I need to up my skills, I need to up skills where students are concerned, and make a student feel that yes, I know more than just the academics. This is something that is really very important in today's life. So, vocational training, in terms of, it could be sports also, it could be co curriculum, music. If a child is trained vocationally, the child is going to be less inclined to various negative forces that are there around now. So I think vocational training is really very important in today's world to make a child wholly developed and strong in all the fields. Thank you.
So nicely summed up, ma'am. I mean, that you know leads us to one of our next areas of discussion, which is about experiential learning. Kolbe's idea of experiential learning, and how that can lead to you know uh, you know our students learning through doing, and learning what are the most important things to learn, not the traditional way, learning through memorization or learning through rote. So I would like to request Mr. Sandy Huda to to you know take up this particular area and share it with us, please, sir.
Mr. Huda, you're not audible. I'm sorry. You're not audible. No, we cannot hear you.
Yeah, we still can't actually.
Maybe you need to reconnect and allow the mic function. If you're on your phone, then I think that needs to be done. I'm not sure. Somebody from the tech team can help them.
Okay. Till then, we'll come back to that area of discussion, and with Mr. Huda actually illuminating us on that area. Um, One of the key impacts of the NEP would be how to implement it at the school level. Mr. Huda, can you hear us now? Um, I'm sorry, we still cannot hear you, sir. Can we?
No, I think not. I think, yeah, I think he's going to rejoin.
Mhm. So, so it will be about the implementation part that we need to look at. And for that, I would like to request Mr. Williams to to take up as to what I mean, how we can go about turning these visionary ideas into reality. I mean, uh, what are the first basic things that we need to implement? Some of them are already there in place, but maybe we'll have to put in a little more effort for a few more. So, Mr. Williams.
So, as it has been said that when you have to train someone, you need to train yourself. For that, it is very important that we ourselves need to train ourselves. Then, even we need to train our teachers what we want from our students, what they want from us. For that, we need to be mentally prepared for each and every query. Now, at times, the children are confused at what they should do. For that, there should be some counseling sessions for the students. For that, you need to be prepared. Your teachers need to be prepared. And for that, I personally believe that there should be some sort of training sessions to be given up beforehand to each and every one. There should be a lot of awareness through posters, through hoardings, through placing posters in the classrooms or maybe in the corridor, or maybe publicly. This initiative need to be taken by people around. Then only we will be able to actually implement a lot of things, and then only the students will get benefits. So
Thanks so much, sir. Thanks a lot. Yes. Um, we basically need to orient ourselves and orient the team around us, and then take it to the students. So rightly put. So rightly put. Um, I mean, when we are looking at this vision document, we are seeing that we are slowly moving. I mean, it's actually quite a paradigm shift, because we are moving away from traditional education to a 21st century education, where we are moving away from um, a content based education to a competency based education. And so, when we're talking about competency based education, we are looking at the core competencies. We are looking at certain 21st century skills. So, I would like to request Mr. Rajgaria to to discuss with us about basically the core competency area, and then we'll move to Dr. Jain, and uh, ma'am can tell us about uh, you know the the 21st century skills that we need to impart uh, to the generation, so that they're ready to take on the challenge of the new century. Please, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Suyash. We need to understand why we need to go towards competency based education. Everything was going fine in the content based, so why move towards competency based? The reason being that in this VUCA world where there is so much volatility, there's so much uncertainty, and complexities and adaptabilities required, we don't know whether our students who are studying right now for certain jobs, whether those jobs will be available or not 20 years hence. And hence, it is very, very important for us to train our students, our workforce, which will be out by 2045 or 2047 for competencies rather than on content. One of the things that we have seen is that the jobs that were available in 2001 are sort of obsolete or moving towards obsolescence. And there are new kinds of jobs that have emerged already in the 2020, where you see bloggers are there, where you see radio jockeys are there, where you see, so many sports coaches have come up, or sports management companies have come up. So these are all people who are working on competencies. And this can happen only and only when, as a school or as an education system, we change the way we assess our students. And assessment, we have to work backwards. Like Dr. Williams said, training is a very, very important and integral part. And information dissemination across all stakeholders is so important. Awareness is very important. So is assessment, because when we are studying in a school, we are often trying to achieve something through those assessments. And we have seen in the last 20-25 years, our assessments are very linear. They are paper based. We are not assessing the 360 degrees of the student. We are assessing how he is performing on that particular day on that particular paper. So we need to really start with assessments. What are we assessing? And is that assessment a mark sheet for the student, or is it a self reflection for both the teacher and the student? So the NEP really talks about assessment in a very detailed way. And I think we need to train our teachers, our parents to look at assessment as a way of reflection rather than like a verdict. So I would look at competency based education being successful if we are moving from assessment of learning to assessment for learning. Thank you, Dr. Suyesh.
Beautifully said, Mr. Rajgaria. Yes, we will come back to that assessment element uh, maybe at the last quarter of this discussion. I would now like to move to Dr. Jain, back to Dr. Jain, and you know, put forward to her, ma'am. You already started talking about certain life skills and the other skills that will be important for us to survive in the 21st century. So I'd like to hear from you more about the 21st century skills.
So, firstly, it's easier said than done, because we need to change at the grassroots level. And thankfully, with the NEP coming in, all schools have started doing that, with, probably changing or restructuring the basic school or infrastructure as well, allotting some rooms probably where they can enhance life skills, where the 21st century skills are going to be concerned. See, initially we were looking at millennials. Now we are looking at zillennials, right? Uh, Technology. The pandemic has really taught us that students and teachers alike have to be really, really tech savvy. So first we need to have improvements on the technological front, where even a simple thing like wi-fi, I had certain issues connecting initially when we started off, because of which I couldn't. We just saw that Mr. Huda also did have certain issues. So we need to enhance technological skills, be ourselves trained, and then we can teach children. I must say, students and teachers alike have been really resilient in this pandemic. Students have taught us so much, because we have not been as I would say we are still immature to technology as compared to children. But yes, a lot of research based studies have to be brought in, where children and teachers both have to not stick to the rote learning, or the book. Oh, this is what is there in the book and this is what you need to do, which many international if you see the international curriculum, it does follow. CBSE has started following that, that ICSE is moving on towards it. We really need to ensure the state board also does that, so that everyone is on the same platform. uh, Practical approach, hands-on approach is something that is really very important. With many universities and institutions now having the multidisciplinary approach to studies, I'm sure it will bring in a lot of skills and enhancement further as well. So, uh, most importantly, that restructuring, training, and constant training is very important to build to build skills and enhance further uh, where the NEP also is concerned. So for that, yes, most importantly, AI technology again is something that is going to play a major role.
Sorry, ma'am. I mean, uh, do you want to continue or?
Yeah, I'm good. So I would just
Okay,
say
okay,
when NEP
right.
is focusing on the youth moving from job seekers to job entrepreneurs, that is something we need to really focus on. Thank you.
Right, right. Thank you. I mean, I was just disconnected for a split second, so I could not, assess whether you are done. Right. Thank you, ma'am. We'll move back to Mr. Huda. Mr. Huda, we were actually discussing about the experiential learning aspect, because that is something that we need to. I mean, some schools are already doing it. Some institutions are already doing it. I mean, how we can implement it at a broader scale, right from, as Dr. Jain pointed out, from the grassroots level. So, I would like to hear from you about experiential learning and how we can go about implementing it.
Sure. I hope I'm audible now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. My
Please.
apologies. I was on a Apple device and I just learned that Apple doesn't work very well with this platform. So, as my
Oh,
colleague
all
and
right.
co-panelist pointed out, technology hopefully is getting better and better. Okay, great. So thank you. It's a wonderful question. We at Vega Schools, we actually deploy experiential learning. We deploy something called PBL, which comprises of experiential learning, inquiry-based learning, and project-based learning. Um, our experience. I spent about 2.5 years traveling around the world, looking at schools that were delivering progressive learning. And what I observed was that schools and school systems that were easily able to scale this form of teaching and learning did so by creating a small a lab school or a couple of schools that were able to deliver high quality teaching and learning. And once they created those lab schools, they then took some of the teachers from the schools and and planted them in others in newer schools and school systems. They call it the mitochondrial approach. It's a bit like how a uh, cell multiplies. You take a small part of the cell and that becomes another full cell. In Colombia, if I'm not mistaken, there was a movement called Nueva Escuela, where at the rural level, at the grassroots level, they were able to create very high quality experiential learning. And again, they did so by creating a couple of lab schools and taking components from those lab schools, especially the bright stars from the lab schools, and populating them in newer schools. So this system seems to have worked the best, at least based on my observation, our observation, and that's also how we at Vega grow. We are just building our second school. We are launching in a couple of weeks, and we are transplanting some of our very bright stars there.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks. I mean, it's good that we could hear you at last, and as rightfully pointed out, I mean, we are all um, learning to you know handle technology and use it as one of the skills, and that's one of the you know that's one of the interest areas of the industry as well. The industry has been continuously telling us that besides imparting distinct skills specific to the industry, almost everybody coming into the industry in the next few decades, they must be tech savvy to an extent, and so technology will be a very important component of it. Okay, we'll go back to Mr. Williams, and so I would like to hear from you as to how we can change our assessment pattern to to answer these needs. I mean, what changes do we need to carry out in preparing the curriculum and in assessing whether the objectives of the curriculum has been met. So what are those things? I would like to hear from you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sir, if I talk about the Gurukul system, where the teaching was that every student was being taught all the skills, and they were being, trained up in such a manner that it was used to be like they used to be everything. Like if I talk about all the rajas and maharajas during the medieval time, so they were with all the skills, where their speaking skills, their like they were very good orators. Very nicely they used to speak, what we have seen in Mahabharat and Ramayana serials. So obviously at that time a lot of things were happening, and you'll see that the same scenario will come one day to our country also, where we people have to understand. And I'm thankful to the government of India that, of course, this NEP has been introduced up, where again and again it will be all the skills which will be developed or inculcated in the students. Now, as you have asked the question that what should be done, what should be the implementation part? Like, see, for that, it is very important that we need to set a proper syllabus, topic wise or maybe subject wise, and then you have to make the children aware about the facts and figures that, see, this is the area. If you want to develop yourself into this stream, so you have got this vast area. If you want to develop your self into stream, so obviously you have got this vast area. So somehow the awareness to the students should be very clear. I personally believe that when you train, as it has been said, that when I hear, I forget. When I hear and see, I'm able to understand. When I start teaching, I become master. So it's very simple that the students, they keep hearing and hearing, and then from one year they listen, the other year it is all gone, or maybe after at the end of the day everything is gone. So the thing is that the student need to understand, and then they should start training others. Like, see, one should be very careful about his or her career. So for that, obviously the parents, the teachers, the schools, and the environment where they are living, they're getting trained up very nicely. Getting trained up because nowadays they are techno savvy. They know everything, from where they have to take out what they want. And if they want to become for example, suppose X or Y or Z, so they know each and everything, that how to become an X, Y, or Z. So that is what, it's just a matter of that how we bring out things in front of them. We need to serve a platter in front of them, and we have to tell them that, see, this is what your choices are, and this is what the is, and now you have to do something good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Mr. Williams. Um, I would like to ask Mr. Huda that Sir was talking about one particular aspect of the Gurukul learning, which was uh, developing leadership skills, because the NEP is also trying to focus on the area that students should not be just employable, but they should take things into their own hands and be the drivers of the economy, be the drivers of the country. They should have that entrepreneurial zeal within them. So I'd like to hear about more about that from you, sir.
Sure. Thank you once again for asking a very interesting question. So again, we at Vega Schools, we follow a method called iLead, which is similar to design thinking, and our learners learn the entire curriculum by way of initially putting together a driving question and then solving real world problems through that driving question. Um, by doing so, they they imbibe all the leadership skills, all the skills uh, to lead change, lead management, change management, active listening, consensus building, and all the skills that empathy, all the skills that leaders should have and ought to have. And this is integrated within the curriculum. So there's nothing, we don't teach these life skills separately. It's an intrinsic part of teaching and learning. And we also assess learners based on not only their meeting curriculum needs, but also on the basis of their leadership skills and soft skills. There's a very old saying that teachers will ultimately teach um, what is being assessed. So if we are assessing leadership skills, then teachers will craft and create teaching environments that will help develop those skills. So we follow the I-Lead cycle, which is very, very similar to how design thinking operates. And it's also very similar to how successful companies, successful entrepreneurs around the world, um, you know, deal with problem, deal with change. The second piece is, traditionally the curriculum has always been about one right answer, which is also called convergent thinking. And we like to bring in something called divergent thinking, that a problem can have more than one right answer. And that also expands the thinking, and it helps learners become lateral thinkers, out of box problem solvers. All these are the leadership traits that we will require in the world of tomorrow.
That's so nice. I mean, the way we are thinking forward is how our forefathers also used to think. I mean, as Mr. Williams pointed out, and as you rightfully pointed out, Mr. Huda. So I would like to hear from Dr. Jain now as to um, how we can put these together. I mean, how we can create a I mean, a holistic human being, and at the same time, students, who can lead from the forefront.
So I'll take the Gurukul system further. India is lucky to have the Gurukul system, or was lucky, but we are taking it every step further. Activity, we have something known as home economics. We've created a small room or lab, and with, I think, me being the only female amongst all the men here, I will agree. I would wish that all agree with me, where women are the leaders, at least on the home front, but now women are the leaders otherwise also. So what we have done is, now where the NEP says, from the basics. So simple thing like turning on the gas. uh, how would you cook in a pressure cooker? Ironing, going to the bank, filling a slip book or a checkbook. Even things like this eventually lead to a lot of learning right from the basic skills. Gurukul system mein it was different. The child had to cook for his guru, in a jungle, in an open area. A similar scenario, but leading to the 21st century, is something that what we are talking of. Making simple tea or coffee. How are you going to manage your expenses? I am giving you 1,000 rupees for the month. How are you going to manage that? How are you going to train yourself, move ahead with that? Even this, I believe, is also teaching basic skills of life and moving ahead in this assessing. Now here what happens is, the peers are teaching. You may do it individually, or you may do it in a group. You may do it at home. Your parent is also going to be teaching you. The teacher is also going to be teaching you. Teacher is definitely going to be teaching in class, but taking it a step further, where we invite parents or a student to teach their peers, or the parent to teach that group of children in which his or her child is. Take them to the bank, make them do certain even daily chores. How am I going to use a washing machine? How am I going to sew a button? Dining etiquettes. What are these? These are all basic skills. Moving on to a 21st century, vocational skills as well. So all in all, where we talk of a wholesome child, right? We have a wholesome meal, so we need to have a wholesome child who knows all these basic skills as well. Training a child to uh, know each and every life skill, that is something which is very important. Assessing them, moving from content base to concept base, peer learning, uh, also complementing his or her skills. I may be interested in something, may not be interested in something. So a simple thing like, usually where math is something that is not very easy, or most of us fear math or sciences. Understanding or preparing question papers that is suitable to a child, which not, I know it is quite tedious and cumbersome for a teacher. Oh, I have to prepare so many question papers. No, can't we just have our peers train them? Maybe history, whichever, wherein I can't remember dates, have it in an enactment form, so that a child is more verse is more suitable to learning the dates and remembering, oh, this is what Shivaji Maharaj did, or this is what Akbar did, or this is what Chanakya did. With the dates, then it will automatically follow. But giving at the right time, I think enactment is a very good or role play is something which is real, which really helps in teaching. We need to really move towards that, and automatically the peers are assessing, it becomes easier for the teacher also, where the teacher is not burdened with just giving question paper after question paper, making it easy for her also to assess, because in class it could be done again as a group activity or as an individual activity. So MCQs, where a lot of thought process goes in. It's not going to be just the rote, acha yahan se ratta mara, pick it up from here and just put it in here. So these skills are going to be helping a child to move ahead and be prepared for the 21st century again. Implementing all of this. Thank you.
Ma'am, I liked it, how you put together, various aspects of experiential learning. And at the same time, you also spoke about, the certain core competencies like, the analytical skills and, the skill of interconnecting ideas. So, I was also fascinated by what Mr. Rajgaria was talking about, how we should move away from the end of the day assessment to a more uh, continuous assessment, like the way the Scandinavian countries are moving. I mean, Finland has already implemented it. Norway has partly implemented it, and the other Scandinavian countries, even Germany, is thinking in those lines. So um, it's really a matter of great anxiety for our students to just sit through a particular exam and get back home and be content with it, because on that day that student might not be at his or her best, or the preparation of that particular student might not be at the best, but that does not mean that that was the end all for that student. So I would like to hear more about this from Mr. Rajgaria, because I really feel that our assessment methodology needs to be turned upside down on its head, and a lot of things need to change there if we want our students to enjoy life, enjoy what they're learning, and also enjoy what the Scandinavian countries are already enjoying, a beautiful balance between work and family. So I like the way Dr. Jain actually connected real life scenario to the learning environment inside the school, because those are small skills that I know that a lot of students do not acquire at all, even if they have passed out from the school, and they become dependent on somebody else to do it for them. and then we are talking about gender equity, and it does not happen. So, yes. So, Mr. Rajgaria, please.
Yeah, very, very important question there, Dr. Suyas. Thank you so much for asking this question on assessments. And I think I would like to point that a lot of schools in India have already started doing continuous assessment, schools like ours included, wherein at least the start has happened up to grade 6, and we are moving slowly and steadily to higher grades also. Not taking away the end of the year examination completely away, because in the Indian context that is also important, but to assess the child through and through the year is equally important. And I will like to highlight on a few things that are being done in the schools. One is Mr. Huda pointed out about divergent learning, that when you're setting an assessment paper, it is so important to recognize and appreciate that there is no one right answer necessarily. There has to be multiple ways, and that is how you think about creativity and you think about individualism. About how the child is approaching that question is more important for us than about his right or wrong answer. So when we are setting up assessment papers, we try and set up papers which are more open ended. And when I talk about open ended papers, they could have multiple answers correct. It is about the way the child is thinking about the particular problem and approaching to the particular problem that is more important. And that requires a lot of training to be done to the teachers, because we have over the years been set in a particular mold that this is how question papers are to be set, and this is how marking schemes are, and there are the particular ways in which things are to be done. So to break away from that is going to take us time. But the NEP has beautifully laid this about multidisciplinarism, about having a holistic child. And to do all of that, we start with assessments. What are we assessing really in a child? And in our schools, what we are really doing is there is assessment for learning happening, wherein the child himself is using the paper as a self reflection to understand whether he has understood the topic or not, and how he learns better. So it is not necessarily a paper-based examination. It could be as small as a project that has been given, which a team of 4 or 6 do. And I don't mean, when I talk about a project, I don't necessarily mean a model. In our times, the projects were like a model, but now a project-based approach is more of handling a real-world problem and trying to solve that real-world problem and approaching it through various ways and using all their various disciplines to kind of approach that. So we have a program that is called the Bal Janagrah program, which is sensitizing children towards societal needs. So children actually go out of the school campus and talk to villages across the cities that we are in, and try and understand their problem. And when they find that there is a particular problem that they can solve, they brainstorm towards it, and they use all their skills, and then approach the civic authorities to try and solve it. So for example, recently there was an open drain problem which was there close by, and how they pooled in funds, how they raised the capital to get that done, how they sensitized everybody. So they are developing communication skills, they're developing teamwork, they're talking about collaboration, critical thinking, problem solving. So these are 21st century skills, and this cannot be done sitting inside the classroom alone or through the textbooks. These need to be done in a fabric where it is interwoven in such a way that you have to move out of your classrooms, or probably within the classrooms create environments where you're challenging them enough through these problems. So assessments, I think, is a very, very integral part and a very important part for us to look at when we are talking about this change happening.
Beautifully put, sir. Beautifully put. Yes. I was really liking, the way, every one of you have connected on so many different planes. And Mr. Huda was talking about divergence, and Mr. Williams was talking about the Gurukul method, and Dr. Jain was talking about how the Gurukul method actually was encapsulated the idea of leadership, and how, Mr. Rajgaria, you spoke about how we need to retrace our steps and assess whether our assessments are right in place. And I am totally at one with you that this the divergent thinking planes that Mr. Huda is trying to inculcate in his students, and the argumentative tradition that Dr. Jain and Mr. Williams had been talking about, and uh, the experiential aspects that Mr. Rajgaria and Dr. Jain were talking about will really bring about a change in the way we read the NEP, the way we try to understand what those people who had been putting it together had been thinking about, and how we implement it. So I would like Mr. Huda to, I'd like to come back to you, sir, in the last few minutes and ask you, I mean, how do you see, um, I mean, what future do you see of this vision plan? I mean, how far do you think it's implementable, and um, where do you think we are lacking at the moment, and we need to gain pace?
So I think that the NEP will get implemented, and the reason it will get implemented is because of the pressure from the employer. Now employers are putting a lot of pressure on universities to deliver the skills that they require in people they're hiring. I was just talking to the head of Asia of IBM, and he told me that now they don't even look at more. Now they look at a young person's ability to learn, um, learn and relearn. So there's a lot of pressure coming from the employer, and it's coming on the university. It will eventually trickle down to schools as well. I think the question is how quickly will it happen? And I think the way it can happen quicker is if the parents start demanding as well. What we do as an institution, we are very open about the teaching and learning that we deliver. We not only involve our parents in it. We have, for example, twice in a term, we have a project exhibition day where all the parents are invited to the school to see the great work that the children are doing, and see for themselves how it's making a big difference to their lives. We have student-led conferences that also further validate the need for this change. And we are also very active on social media. We're very active. We celebrate the work of our learners, and when people, our parents and beyond, when the world sees learners doing interesting things, I think that's when there will be this greater demand for this kind of teaching and learning. So I have no doubt it will happen, but the question is how quickly will it happen? I suspect it's not going to be as quick as the world, how quickly the world is changing, which is where I think all of us, people who are running schools, we need to really celebrate. Firstly, make sure we do very interesting things, um, so that our learners are doing extraordinary things, and then we celebrate what the learners are doing openly, transparently with the world.
Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Rajgaria, I mean, just to come back to you, I mean, you were talking about some about sustainable development. So, a quick wrap up on that and how it connects to this NEP vision.
Like I was talking about the Baljanagara project, and that is a project that was started by our students when they saw that there is a need for certain changes in the society. And I think we are measuring success now as a society as something that can be sustainable and something that can be societal, which can go towards the society. And I think at the school levels, that is very, very important to sensitize our children about environmental issues, about societal issues, about talking about sensitizing our children towards the SDGs that the United Nations has given for 2030. So I think all schools which measure success need to start doing that on these parameters of whether they are making an impact really in terms of sensitizing children towards these, so that at the end of the day we as schools are liable to ensure that we make better citizens for the country. And when citizens for the country are sensitized, they are aware about their responsibilities, I think we are generally developing a better society in general. So our initiatives with the sustainable projects is just to ensure that we are developing good human beings who have these value systems and who are working towards making a change, a positive impact for the society that they live in. Thank you so much, Dr. Suresh.
Thanks a lot, sir. I would like to request a wrap-up speech from Dr. Jain regarding how we can actually, you know, put forward a vision plan for our students. I mean, what do we need to tell them that these are the things that you need to change so that you're prepared for the future?
Change itself is very important. As mentioned earlier, when we started off, Mr. Williams said about change is the necessity of life. So that is something which we need to adapt children to, that accept change. You are doing something today. What do you foresee 20, 30 years down the line? Things are not going to remain the same. So that is something of foremost importance. And for that, your foundational skills in terms of literacy, numeracy, critical life skills is something that is very important. Learn all of that. Sustainability, as Mr. Rajgaria said, is so important. How, not only how are you going to help your environments sustain, but how are you yourself also going to be able to sustain in the changing environment? So keep adapting to change, always be in the forefront, and step ahead, accept it, learn from it, and teach from it. So that is something which is very important.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, as a finale, I would like to hear from Mr. Williams. I mean, we were all talking about what are the ways by which we can empower our children. So, as a seasoned educator, I would like to hear from you uh, how this empowerment can happen in a nutshell, and summarize for us how the NEP can push us towards it.
Yeah, Dr. Bhattacharya, Dr. Jain, and Mr. Rajaria, and Mr. Huda, and in fact, Ms. Neha. To conclude this, I would like to say that, see, the most important thing in today's scenario is that every school should start with finishing school division. The most important thing is finishing school division, where each and every child should be trained the different methodologies of how to train their mind, how to be more effective with their attitude, how can they be more effective with their etiquettes, and there are a number of things what they need to understand through schooling, and that is what comes as a part of a finishing school division for each and every child, and especially the children who are outgoing students of class 12. They should understand this very well, that how they have to face the world and what they have to do in coming years. So I strongly suggest that, every school should use this finishing school division methodologies in their schools, because the mental retention of a child is for a very short duration of time, but when you touch their heart, they remember lifelong. With this thought, thank you so much. God bless you all.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Williams. Thanks to Dr. Jain, Mr. Rajgaria, Mr. Williams, Mr. Huda, and a big thanks to APAC and our initiator, Ms. Paul, for putting us together. We had a scintillating session. I mean, I was thrilled to hear from all my co-panelists, and it was a lovely one, a lovely session and a wonderful one. Something that I'll really remember for a long period of time. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Paul. Over to you, please.
Indeed, it was a very interesting and I'll say insightful session. So before coming, because it's at the end of second School Tech Innovation Conclave, so before coming to an end, we would like to thank all our industry partners, uh, technology partner Microsoft, display partner Samsung, digital transformation partner Avaya, gold partner Yash Technologies, credential partner TrueScholar, and associate partner Intercell for their support. And a very big thank you to all of you for joining, taking your time from your busy schedule, sharing your insights on this particular topic, making it a great success. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure meeting you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.